These next few slides will take you through the different attributes for each of the different generations. One thing to point out up front is to note that we all go on our personal journey from 0 to however long we live. When you're young, you'll be one of the younger generations, in this case G4 as a child, G3 as a young adult, G2 probably as a parent, and then G1 grandparent sort of status. So we will all have similar journeys. The challenges we face and the opportunities we face may be different, but we will also have all those situations happening in our lives where you kind of look back and think, oh, maybe I should have done this differently. But we all do the best we can with the information and the knowledge that we have at the time. So this isn't a reason to kind of hold on to grudges. If anything, is just to let go of those and also accept the fact that we all do try our best in the situation. But given the time and circumstances, it does vary greatly. So generation 1, these are the strong girls and guys that came over, strong for making the move, leaving behind friends, probably leaving behind difficult circumstances that drove them to do that, very much like why asylum seekers tend to move. They face a lot of resilience in the face of adversity and racism, which we kind of may not have the same sort of experience, but we bear in mind some of these guys arrived very shortly after British Raj, so there would have been some toxicity and acidic feelings from the Brits at the time as to losing control of not just India but other places as well. So that would have been difficult. Financial pressures. There's many stories. For example, my dad was one of 4 guys living out of one bedroom, sharing kitchen facilities, and they would literally only have 1 or 2 beds between them. But because they worked different shifts on buses, they would literally turn over the beds and use them for 3 different people during a 24-hour time. So these are kind of like, wow, unheard of stories in this day and age. And the stories go on. They did have some other situations to think about. They had elders back home and they had to send money to them, but they weren't having to care for them in the UK. So that's very different to some of the other generations. And they had kind of strong rooted views. Some of them were stigma creating, and you'll hear from Nainaben and others of what can be the negative consequences of having overly strong views at the time, which again were the best that they thought they had and the best they did at the time. So everything from care homes, living away from home, marrying out of community, never marrying at all, individuals with special needs who might be quiet or sometimes get disorientated, and they kind of end up with the reputation of, oh, he's a bit mad, homosexuality, and so on and so on. And so those are the attributes of that first generation. So I think once you kind of think about what they faced, it will help you to kind of understand why they were the way they are. And we will also, even the youngest generation, their kids and grandkids will look back at them, well, why the hell did you do that? So even though, again, those guys will have done what they felt was right at the time. G2 attributes, which is the first generation either brought up or born in the UK. These are the guys that tend to be in their 50s and 60s. Some are retiring now. Many are retiring, actually. So this is what I refer to as the sandwich generation. So they're caring for elderly parents. They're also heavily involved in school runs, etc., having to be close to their kids to help with the grandkids because of all the financial pressures of the modern age, wanting a separate house. However, as well as wanting their independence, they also have the tie-in of knowing that they need to get involved because financially it's just too much of a strain. So these guys are sandwiched between 2 cultures because they were brought up in a time when there was no internet, there were less external influences, there were less external friends because the local same Indian community friend circle would have been massive. Born and educated in the UK, a lot of these guys have moved away from the traditional long hour shops into white collar employment, and they had limited friend circles, as I say, outside. So as you can see from the list, there was a set routine as well in terms of life. Okay, you grow up, school, parents, the parents weren't too involved in kind of going to parents' evening and all that kind of stuff. You'd get a degree and you'd settle down, you'd have kids. It was kind of a natural timeline for these things. And although there's now more choices and more relaxed attitudes to this, that's how they did things back then. And in their mind and their reasons, there was reasons for that. And some of these topics will be covered in due course as well. Less outside pressures, grew up with Indian traditions and cultural habits. And sometimes those, as I say, Nainaben will cover this in a bit more depth. And I think it's important that we hear what she has to say. How it felt to be ostracized as a result of those sorts of attitudes. G3, who are the young adults now, or maybe even kind of later teens still at school, they have very little cultural input opportunity, because the decisions made by G2 in terms of like, no, you focus on swimming or football, not going to graduate school, and so on and so on. And these things that they've kind of grown up knowing a little bit about India, but not as much as many others. There are some families who have been able to take them to India and explain more about India than others. So there's a great variety of kind of different knowledge bases here. This is also the generation that's going to be impacted heavily by AI, the rise of the East, the crumbling of the West in the sense of the financial numbers, the job opportunities, and so on. And so these changes that are happening, the 9-to-5 jobs are being replaced by people having 5 to 9 jobs or gigs in this modern day and age, working from home. These are the significant differences. And they also have a lot of choices, sometimes potentially too many choices that kind of freeze them in procrastination. And parenting the next generation is something that I believe is harder now than it was back then, because of all the external pressures that come straight into a kid's phone. G4, the kids, the ones that are kind of in school, in nursery at the moment, they're growing up in a very different community and society. The input of what comes through on their phone is significant. I personally think that the likes of Australia are taking good steps in terms of limiting access to phones for the younger minds. I think it's a good thing. That's my opinion. Obviously, everyone's it's going to be different greatly. But if anything that helps in this day and age to keep children young without being badly influenced, I think is a good thing. And knowing more about mental health, I think, is good. Being woke is difficult. No one can be completely woke all the time. But this generation seem to think that they must know everything about everything, and not knowing everything is going to be seen as something bad, which hugely adds great pressure on them. Final slide on this is G3 and G4. So obviously it tends to be the parents of G4, which is G3, that have, they have choices, have consequences. So these are just some of the things that normally drives a parent to make a decision of what they believe at the time is the best thing for their kids in the current kind of climate, the environment where they go to school, maybe even moving house to get to the right school, and kind of breaking up family units in the sense that where in the old days there would have been one massive family home. That's not the same anymore. That adds financial pressure. It does provide independence to a little degree as well. So there is a balance there. And there's also the kind of desire to do better. And sometimes that's indicated by having a home. But again, it comes with a lot of stress and strain.